So we've discussed those various images, the newest updates from NASA. Always interesting to see what NASA has to show us. Uh, these sorts of images we were talking about a little bit imply, you mentioned, they imply that the universe is so large and vast that it is almost impossible to deny the not only possibility but likelihood of other life forms other than us.
Correct. I mean, when you just look at this picture and then you take, I mean, that's just, again, that's we're looking at a grain of sand sized portion of the universe. And in that grain of sand sized portion of the universe, you're seeing thousands of other galaxies. And, our galaxy, just when you think about, and that's thousands of galaxies, and you think about our galaxy alone has, over 1 trillion stars, and scientists estimate between 6 billion and 10 billion Earth-like planets. Well, you'd have to believe that there's definitely life out there that's intelligent life. Most certain. I mean, there's other life out there, right? And I believe there's other intelligent life. There's no question it has to exist, and not only in those other galaxies that we see in those images, but here on this planet, in this galaxy, in the Milky Way galaxy, there's no question there's other life forms floating around out there. There has to be. And some of those, right, have been around most certainly longer than human beings have been around. We've only been recording history for like 4,000 or 5,000 years or something like that. It's not been that long. 3,000 years, 4,000 years we've been recording. But I mean, and the Milky Way galaxy itself is over 13 billion years old. So there most certainly, if there's other planets out there, that means there's other life out there. That means there's other intelligent life out there. And that explains why sometimes people see flying saucers here. And I guess the question is, why? Why would they? I mean, I'm not going to debate, that aspect of it. I don't want to get into that again. Like I seem like I always do. I get upset with debunkers all the time. But what I'm trying to wonder is, I accept that they're here, right? What I'm trying to say is, why are they coming here? And I have a couple of ideas. I have some ideas, but I'm sure I don't have all of them. It could be that they could be looking for a new world. Maybe the planet that they're on is dying out, and they're searching around for other places to move to, and they look at Earth and say, hey, this looks nice. Unfortunately, there's some human beings living here. They're primitive, intelligent beings compared to us, but we could easily get rid of them. Maybe they're thinking that. I don't know. I'm just suggesting. I don't. Maybe what's been going on here. They're trying to figure out the best way to get rid of us. Without destroying the rest of the planet. Maybe that's why they're here. It's just taken a long time because to embark on such a project would require a lot of thought. I mean, again, I'm probably totally wrong. I would hope that anything that's more intelligent than us would actually be more acceptant. There would be no, they wouldn't want to disrupt, what's going on here. But then again, what do I know? What do you think? I don't know.
Me personally, well, I personally think that there would have to be some sort of there has to be like an equal ratio between the amount of technological advancement the civilization, has, and how peaceful and, less warring it generally is. The more violent and hostile a species, the less they can technologically advance, I would think. Just, in the same way humans, their process regarding, a lot of people would say that the process of humanity gaining technology has been slower than it should be because of our warring, violent tendencies. And so I think that any sort of higher advanced alien species, or humanity in the future, would have to become gradually less warring and violent and all that sort of thing, just all around, in whatever way it generally can as a whole. And the same goes for any species if they're going to acquire technological advancement. And I think that aliens would most likely be peaceful, just generally speaking, if they are more technologically advanced than humans.
Well, I mean, the other thing is too. I think it's when you consider all the different possibilities out there. I think there's more than one race of beings that come here, and you know, it could be that maybe that's what this hybridization program that some people think is real. I mean, if that's real, that means they're trying to absorb the human race in this, you know, slow fashion where they're eventually becoming like we become them very slowly. You know, next thing you know, humans don't, or humans as we used to know them are gone, and what's replaced is half human, half alien, and then maybe eventually it's all alien. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that could be what's going on here. I mean, they look at they see how human beings are, and we are a violent animal. I mean, there's no question. We kill each other. We can't get along with each other. And so, I mean, they probably look at us and look at these people. Oof. You know, I mean, it's not. I'm sure they realize that not all of us are this way, but at the same time, there's enough of us that are this way that could be a problem, you know, and maybe there's concerns that, hey, if these beings keep advancing and they could get out into space, I mean, what if they start traveling other planets and, you know, attacking, you know, other beings, you know, because that would be a concern, right? I mean, I'm sure that they're probably, we could be being monitored right now, and they're just waiting until we get to a certain point, and then, okay, guess what? Okay, now, you know, time's up. They've had their chance, and it's time to get rid of them. You know, maybe they're giving us a chance to straighten out. Maybe that's what's going on too. I don't know.
I personally don't think that would be the case, though. I mean, it's possible, I guess, but I don't think that. I think that aliens would not necessarily have to worry about humanity suddenly, you know, destroying them or attacking them. Like, you know, we haven't even yet learned of their existence yet, really, on the whole. So, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't consider us too much of a threat, really. I mean, if they have the ability to do space travel, presumably faster than light speeds, build hovercraft and that sort of thing, and there's been plenty of reports of you know, of the UFO sighting, that sort of thing, that have been alongside them have been the reports of them, like, for instance, shutting down. Wasn't there that one instance where they shut down a whole bunch of missiles?
Oh yeah, there's been
They shut down a whole bunch of
they shut down a
mission. Technology.
Yeah, they shut down a nuclear base apparently in 1967.
Yeah,
in Montana.
like during a flying saucer going overhead, like it all just shut down.
Yeah, flying saucer showed up over Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana in 1967, and
That's
basically all next thing you know, all the missiles were shut down. There was 10 nuclear missiles. They were all shut down, and then they went back on, and the flying saucer took off. So apparently they have the ability to do things like that, and apparently it's happened in other places too.
So yeah, I don't know why. Like, I mean, if they are a technologically advanced species, and you know, we're technologically advancing as well, I mean, like, they could just continue their technological advancement, and then just be always more technologically advanced than us.
Right.
And therefore, we'd never be a threat.
Well, we're never going to catch up to them. There's no question about that. Unless they die. The only way we'll catch up to them if they completely die out, I would imagine, or decide, hey, no, or become incredibly lazy and decide not to try to advance any further. I mean, what's the limit of advancement? I guess. I mean, is there a ceiling that you hit? I mean,
I don't think so.
There's some. I mean, at some point, do you reach some rarefied? Do you ascend to some rarefied height where there's no point in even advancing anymore?Maybe you just could sit there and, you know, and just think about what you need and it shows up, or you think about where you want to go and you just end up going there. You just a whole life based on complete mind power. Who knows how far could this thing go? How far does intelligent advancement go? As you know, is there a rule in the universe? I don't know.
I don't think so. I do not actually think so personally. I think they can just keep going forever, just up and up. There'll be no limit to technological advancement.
I mean, in the evolution of humankind, I mean, at some point, are we going to start looking like these things as we advance? You know, some of these smaller, diminutive beings that apparently show up. Do we start turning into those kind of things over time? Do our bodies become more, you know, because we don't need muscles anymore because we have technology that takes care of all the hard, heavy lifting for us? We are able to use telepathy. We don't have to use our mouths anymore because we just use telepathy. Like, but I want to get back to like the purpose of why they are. Well, why would they be coming here? It could be anything. Like I said, like maybe like you said when you said yesterday or the day before that it could be because they just it's by accident.
I think that is, yeah, I think that is the case, actually. I mean, me and you both agree there's most likely a variety, like a near endless variety, just as many animals as there are in the kingdom, a variety of different types of like aliens, right?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to me that like eventually, just a few of these, probably over time, just a bunch of these just end up, people or stray aliens going off of their alien planets, wandering around the universe, eventually end up here.
One of the other things I wonder though, like once you reach a certain level of advancement in this galaxy, I would have to wonder. Like, I believe that there's numerous, countless different species of intelligent life just floating around just in our galaxy alone. So I would have to believe that once you get to a certain level of advancement, there must be some sort of a similar version of NATO, that governs instead of governing up, trying to get a planet to work together with itself. I mean, something that gets all separate planets in a galaxy or maybe a certain specific section of a galaxy to work with itself. I mean, is that what's going on? Well, I would have to agree that I would have to disagree with you. I think that there would have to be.
I think personally that the idea of governments the idea of an alliance between various alien species is fine, but in the context of a government system, governments are most likely a human creation. I do not think other alien species would have governments in the same way we do at all.
There has to be some sort of a governing. I mean, you can't get
what anything. What are you talking about?
Because they're for intelligent beings to come to get anything done. It has to start with some sort of a. How could it be a myth? A bunch of just people working freestyle on their own. I mean, I don't see how that's possible. You'd have to have. It doesn't have to be. It could be a looser form of government, but it has to be some form of government, right? That brings people together.
It is not true.
I don't see how it's not. I don't see how.
I just don't think that's true. Okay, consider this. What if aliens, for instance, what if aliens do not operate? We can agree, aliens most likely do not operate on the same rules humans do, right?
Right.
So their lifestyles would probably not have the same sort of limitations that we have, right? And for instance, a lot of the same problems that cause us to require governments would probably not be relevant to them at all.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. I mean, we're talking about now. Say traveling 100,000 light years, is it becomes a piece of cake at some point for an intelligent race. And meanwhile, you're able to travel into some solar system where there's other intelligent life that happens to be just as advanced as you, or maybe a little bit more advanced, or maybe just a little bit less advanced, right? But you meet and each other. Hey, you're coming to our galaxy. You're going to stop at our planet and get some water. Okay, that's fine and everything, but at the same time, maybe, but I would imagine all of these advanced beings are on some sort of exploration adventures, right? And I would imagine that there has to be some rules when it comes to a planet like ours, where there's developing intelligence like ours. It's stuck down right now at a certain level that you can't go just blowing them up, buddy. I would imagine there's some sort of a understanding among other higher intelligent beings, the different species from different planets that you would think anyway.
Are you so sure about that?
I'm just saying. I just think that there would be. I would imagine if there's more, I would imagine there has to be. You would hope. But who knows if they're able to? Who knows if it's adhered to? It would be hard to adhere to. It would be hard to patrol that. I don't know how could you, unless there's things around here watching everything that happens here, and we don't even see. Maybe there's some sort of invisible probes floating all around here, making sure that we're not exploited. I don't know.
Well, no, I just do not necessarily think that an alien civilization would necessarily require a government. The same way I don't necessarily think human civilization does, but that's relevant.
Well, how could you not though? I mean,
Well,
how could if you're going to build anything, if you're going to build cities or
if you're
you're
going to
going to
build
build a
anything, you
fleet,
need
you're
to
going to
get
build a
close to do it.
mothership, you're going to build a mothership that could fly into deep space that houses a whole bunch of little scout saucers, right? How are you
Yeah.
going to build that without some sort of government? You have to
What do
have.
you mean? How are you going to build? How are you going to build that with?
But
a
you have a
government?
whole bunch of entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and all these
What do
planets.
you know? I'm not saying that at all. Listen, consider this. You know, a lot of alien abductee stories, a lot of alien encounter stories involve people saying that the aliens could somehow telepathically communicate.
Right.
A government could not exist under a telepathically communicating civilization.
A government could not exist under telepathic communication. Well, I don't see why couldn't it? Why?
Because you cannot think about it. Government requires there to be certain information withheld from certain other parties. For there to be a governmental system, you have to have.
Well, no, that doesn't mean that's not necessarily true. If you were living in and not only that, but who's to say that once you get to that level of advancement, right? Once you evolve to a being that could communicate telepathically, who's to say that they don't have other kind of technology that could block telepathic communication from going from going to places where they don't want it to go. You don't know that either. That's presumptuous.
That's fair. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. But you must admit that if there were a hive mind collective of aliens that were basically all like the same sort of entity, they would not have any requirement for government.
If you didn't have, but see again,
without
government,
very specific.
Without any sort of government, how could you wouldn't be able to get things done though? You wouldn't be able to organize.
That's the myth.
How could you organize a trip, send a bunch of motherships on exploratory missions into the galaxy without some sort of government to make that happen?
You do it without the government telling you to.
Who? Well,
the aliens.
Well, there you go though.
Me and you.
Again, okay, you do it without, but see, somebody down there had
to.
But no matter, it still had to be governed.
Somebody
there had to be brains on the top that said, okay, you know what?
You do not need brains on the top.
Yes, you need some people to organize.
Listen, let me tell you something.
How could they organize something like that? You're talking. I mean, it just wouldn't work. You have to have some sort of governing body to organize it.
You don't. I just disagree with that.
I disagree with you. I would think you would have to. Again, neither of us really know what we're talking about. This is all pure speculation, right? But I don't see how you can get even no matter how advanced you are, right? I don't see how a race of intelligent beings could operate without any government whatsoever. There has to be some rules. You have to have rules, and rules need to be enforced.
You do not need to.
If you don't enforce rules, the jungle wins.
That's a misassumption, I think.
If you don't enforce the rules, the jungle wins.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true.
Where do the rules come from?
One of my
where do the rules come from?
The rules are made by different people.
The rules are made in the jungle.
Okay.
The rules are part of the jungle.
One of my favorite movies, actually, speaking of jungles, one of my favorite movies is No,
I'm sorry.
The Asphalt Jungle. The Asphalt Jungle, right? 1950. It's one of the best crime dramas ever made. It's right up there as my book, along with The Godfather and all of that. And basically, you've seen this movie. You know the movie. You know I showed you that movie a long time ago, and so you understand. Now, basically, if you look at that movie, there's if a community doesn't pay for a police force, right, to enforce laws, the jungle would end up winning, right? Oh, yes, it is true. I mean, there was a statement made. If we don't have, yes, it would. Yes, it would. The animal would control us. The beasts of the jungle would control.
That's just not true.
Yes, it is.
That is a myth.
It's not a myth.
It's not true.
It's a known fact.
You seem to think people are inherently evil.
I don't think apparently.
You think people need to be controlled just inherently.
No. We need to have someone that enforces rules.
You do not.
To contain the evil.
You do not.
You contain the evil by having rules.
I tell you, listen. Governments in the first place are the root cause of most crime and violence, actually, and
Well, I'm not going to get into that. You're going into another area here that, that's a different kind of debate.
That is a different debate.
That's a different kind of debate. What I'm saying is this. We're getting way off track.
We are getting way off topic.
I'm just saying there has to be a government. There has to be in some alien form, if there's any of those beings that are coming here, right? There has to be a government somewhere behind this that was that launched this mission for them to be here. There has to be.
What if they're a hive mind collective?
Well, still, they're a hive mind collective.
That is not a government.
It's a form. It's their form of government.
That is not a government. That is a single person doing whatever they want in multiple forms. That is not a government.
Okay, you're saying a hive mind. Okay, no, but it's not a single person. It's a group.
But it's a single person. A hive mind would be a group. As much.
That's what I'm saying. A hive mind mentality would be yes.
But it would also be a single person.
Okay, then it's governed by a single person then.
But no, it's not a government. I mean, that's like saying I govern myself, so I'm a government.
No, but you have one being governing others and doing
its bidding.
No, they're not.
It's one being governing itself.
I don't know what.
Consider this. Think about it. If you had a hive, okay, let's say a lot of aliens.
A hive mind is like one big brain,
right?
But it's like the Borg. It's like the Borg, but there wasn't just like one Borg that was, it was all one. They were all controlled by them itself. But they did have rules. There were rules. But
the thing is, it was not enforced rules.
What do you mean it wasn't enforced rules?
It wasn't enforced rules.
Yes, it was. They had their own set of boundaries and rules, and yes, it did.
Okay, that's like saying
the hive mind operates. Okay, we're going to take over. Okay, we're going to conquer and absorb these other intelligent beings into our way of life.
Yeah, but that's not a government.
It's a form of government. There has to be. How could they can't get anything done without some sort of.
That's not true. It is not a government.
You can't advance at all without some sort of form.
That is not true. Listen, if you had I got to redebate you on the hive mind issue just for a moment. If you had a hive mind collective entity, it would just be one person, one entity. It would not be a government. It would just be like saying, I have personal moral quotas and a philosophy for myself. Does that make me a government because I have rules? Do I enforce rules upon myself?
Okay, let's look at it. I'm going to have to get some outside.
What are you looking at?
Would a hive mind? Okay, look, here's a question on Quora. Would a hive mind form of government work? Yes.
What are you? You're getting answers from Quora.
Well, somebody asked the question. We'll see who answered the question. Okay, it says here. Okay, it's the one answer here is it says I feel your question and your description are competing forms of governance because I do not think hives exist to benefit the individual. They exist to benefit the hive and derive their morality from that point. A worker ant is infected, quarantine away from the hive and let die. Bees do the same thing. Also, most hive-based animals are presumably not of sufficient mental complexity to run against the needs of the hive, even if the cost is their own life. Ants, and this is not what I wanted to get here. Wait, hold on. Let me get here a little bit here. Hives are not democratic. The natural versions are largely caste-based to the extent they individualize at all, and those castes have matching biologies. The only way humanity achieves those things are if we have some higher complexity system. Well, this is not what I wanted to get there.
Okay.
I need to get some help here because I don't think I'm breaking through to you. I mean.
Listen. I don't think I'm breaking through to you because I'm trying to explain here. If they had a hive mind collective civilization, like
here's something from Reddit from 2016. Is there a government? Okay, is there a government type to represent a hive-minded race? How about that? Can we see what this says here?
If you want, but I don't know.
Okay, somebody answered here. Well, this guy only got it wasn't a lot of people. Nobody was really interested in this question, actually.
Listen, you cannot say to me that a hive mind entity would be a government just because it has multiple bodies. Listen, if I personally, let's say this, if I right now before you were to split myself up into like two different people, right? And I both were these two people, like how twins they sometimes like say the same shit. If you had two entities in a hive mind collective, is that a government? Just because it's two multiple bodies operating under the same mind?
I mean, but I'm talking about a race. I'm not talking about two. I'm not talking about an individual or two people. I mean, okay, let's start with 5 people. Say there's 5 people and they're of a hive mind, and that hive mind decides, okay, but that's a form of government. Anything that
it is not a form of government. If I personally am
standing, okay, like they were just talking about there with an ant. Okay, so my nose itching me. They're talking about an ant. Okay, if an ant gets infected with something, the rest of the hive pushes it out so it doesn't infect the rest of the ants, and then the ant dies. Okay, because that's a form of government. Okay, hey, this one is. Why isn't it?
That is not. What do you mean? Why isn't it?
Because who came up with that? Who came up with that idea? Who came up with that idea? The hive did. What do you mean? Who came up with the idea? But again, we're getting way off base here. I mean, we're debating about this hive. Okay, I want to talk about what the main thing we were trying to talk about here. And I don't think there's any. This debate could go on forever, right? But what I'm trying to talk about here was what are. I mean, is there? I believe that in space there are aliens, and there most likely are some sort of form of NATO or some alliance, right, between some understanding, you would think, of beings who are in the same ballpark with regard to intelligence and advanced the technology, depending on, I don't think we're there, right? I don't think we're just primitive, we're like we're just, to them we're just like ape men running around, like we're dum-dums right now to the things that are coming here. We're like violent dopes. But I think that for more advanced beings, right, there's some sort of understanding. Okay, we won't attack you, you don't attack us. They probably don't even think to know. Who knows? Maybe they do. Maybe there's a violence going on. Maybe there's wars. I don't know. Maybe it's like Star Wars. I don't know. I don't think so. I would hope not. But I'm just saying, with regard to I would think there's some understanding, and there has to be some sort of government, though, Tad. There would have to be.
Now hold on. I still disagree with that. I do not think that there would have to be a government.
I don't see how it could operate otherwise.
I don't see.
You'd have a bunch of people. You have a bunch of beings. How could you? You'd have a bunch of beings just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yes.
They could, they would never advance. How could you advance without structure?
Humanity would have advanced more. Humanity would have advanced even further technologically if it wasn't for government.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
You think we could advance? Look at NASA. NASA, if it wasn't for NASA, is basically a government program.
You can have NASA without a government.
No, you have
NASA without a government.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
No, you have some individuals, right? But there's some people like Elon Musk and the extremely rich people, the Amazon guy. What's his name? I forget his name. No, they're building their own. They have their own little space program.
Governments cause more issues for humanity and hold them back more than they ever advanced them ever. It has always been in spite of governments that technology has advanced, and not because of them.
Again, we're getting to a different argument again. That's again, you're just trying to. I'm trying to stick with the point of you need some sort of governance, whether it's the individual like Elon Musk with his own space program, right? Again, there has to be a governing body there that works together to make those things happen, right?
I don't necessarily think a group of people. I don't necessarily think that a corporation. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't necessarily think you need to say that a civilization requires a government in order to get stuff done, and I just don't see it.
Okay.
Like, let's say this. Let's say they had a race of an alien species that did not have to worry about, for instance, the sort of stuff humans do, like, for instance, food, housing, shelter, death, that sort of thing, right? And so, due to their, an alien species that doesn't have to worry about that sort of stuff would have no reason for a government, because a government would not have to, provide those sorts of things. They would have no need for them. Like if they couldn't be killed by each other, there would be no need for a law preventing murder.
I mean, I'm done. I guess, you know, I have to disagree with a lot of what you say here. I think you need to have some form. When we that's how we get. That's how.
It's not true.
Yes,
It is
yes, it
not
is true. I'm
true. It
afraid
is
to tell
not
you that it
true.
is true. Without a
It is not
government,
true. Look at history.
without any sort of laws and no government,
Without a government, we
anybody
would
could
have
just
gone
kill
into
anybody and
the,
get
we would
away
have
with it.
gone